from John Adams. Our actions will inspire others to dream more, learn more, and do more. Deb Lucia.
Well, thank you so much for being here today. Last week, if you were here, Earl Glenn had a presentation that I guess was 75 slides long. Mine's only 45. But mine's going to go pretty quick, and it's not all information you need to read completely. The title of this presentation is The 2024 Election Update, Narratives That Shaped the Elections and the Storm of Disinformation. What I want to start off with is what's going on first in 2024 in the Sedgwick County elections. And on this slide, there are, in red, you can see the current positions for this election cycle. So this particular slide shows all of the different years, what happens during the election. Oh, let's go back. So this is an even numbered year presidential. There are 127 positions open in Sedgwick County, not including the precinct. If you add in the precinct, which there are 303 precincts, and we elect a man and a woman for each of those on the Republican side, and the Democrats do the same, that's 1,212 open positions in the county. So if you add all of that up, this year there are 733 open positions. The highlights of the positions that we have are 6 appellate seats will be on the ballot. All of the precincts will be on the primary ballot. Then we've got city elections. There's a couple of mayor's seats and city council. There's 26 townships that are electing a trustee and a treasurer. The sheriff, the register of deeds, the county clerk, the county treasurer, 2 county commissioner seats, 2 and 4. The state school board, districts 8 and 10 are open. All of the state senators, the Kansas state senators, all of the state representatives, and 20 district judges. And how many people are here? We have several people here that will be running for that. You want to put your hands up so everybody can see who you are? There's at least 3 of you here, I think. Yep. And then the president and the vice president. So that's what's open for this year. Currently, some of the people this is what we know is happening. We have all of the current people that are currently holding office in the House are running again, and that's the list that you could see up there. And then we have, for 1 seat, Brian Burkham's seat, John Whitmer is also filed as a Republican for. And then we need, down in the Senate district, we have a couple of changes. So Chase Blasey is currently the senator for Senate District 27, but because of a redistricting, he now is in Senate District 26. So he's running in 26, and Joseph Clays is running in 27. And then on here you could see I've got some question marks. I don't know what the Democrats are doing. And then also we could use Republicans. If anybody in this particular, anybody here right now, is in Silas Miller's district, we would love to have a Republican in there because from the last elections, it looks like that would be a close race and we have a good chance of winning that particular seat. And we also could use somebody in Tom Sawyer's district, District 95. So again, if anybody here has ever thought of running for office and you live in those seats, please get a hold of me because the data looks like those could be winnable this year for Republicans. These are the people that have currently filed. There are very few people that have filed already. There's only this is as of yesterday, so there might be a few more people out there, but there was about 129 people filed. Remember, I said there's 303 precinct seats, so we should have way more than that. And then there's 127 other seats. The filing deadline, I'll show this up again, and it's already been said by Carl, is June 3rd at noon. So everybody remember that, June 3rd at noon. You want some information? I think all of you know this, but I'm just going to throw it up there. Always go to the Sedgwick County Election Office for good information, how to become a candidate. If you want to be a precinct person, you could go there and pull off the form right there to be a precinct person. And this is the form that you would see. So again, I want to go over this. We have 303 precincts in Sedgwick County. We have 606 open precinct seats for men, a woman, And currently, we have 250 precinct people, which has been a high number for us. We haven't had that many people file. If you're interested, please file for it. Because how many people live in this county? How many people live in this county? How many? Over 500,000. We should be able to get 606 people out of 500,000 people that could be precinct people. And so if you've ever thought about it, please do it.
Those forms have to be notarized.
The form has to be notarized. Okay, so on May 16th, which is the next Sedgwick County Republican Party meeting, Tanya Buckingham is a notary, and she will be there, and we will have the precinct forms. So that is a good point to remember, that it has to be notarized. So if you come to the meeting on May 16th, we have the forms there. We can get you notarized right at that particular meeting. And we've been doing that for people, which it's easy to do. So again, and then if you're not sure if there's currently somebody that's in that seat, you could always reach out to me, and I will tell you if there's somebody in that seat or if it's an open seat. I just want to go over for the Sedgwick County some of the deadlines coming up. So Monday, June 3rd at noon, remember it's noon, that's the deadline to file for anything or to withdraw your name. So if somebody's filed and they decide, oh, I don't want to run for that office, they have to turn in that they're withdrawing. And then the Tuesday, July 16th is the primary election registration. Books close, last day to register and update your voter information. Then we'll have the primary on August 6th. And then on Tuesday, October 15th, again, general election, registration, books close, last day to register, update your voter information. And then Tuesday, November 5th is election day. Something really important for everybody to know. There are 28 new Election Day polling sites in Sedgwick County. That affects 150,000 voters. We only have about 330,000 voters in Sedgwick County, so nearly half of them have a new polling location. If you want to know if you're polling, you should have got, has anybody here received a letter that their polling location changed? Some of you, there's a postcard. Okay, so John did. Look for a postcard. There's a postcard that the Sedgwick County Election Office is sending out. Always remember, if you want to check your voting data, so that includes who all your elected officials are, who your state rep is, what your precinct is, it's on the website. Go to votekansas.gov or voteks.gov or the sedgwickcounty.org. Does anybody remember why I'm telling you to only go to these places? Who was here last week? Yeah. So there's a whole bunch of other things out there that look like an official voting place, a place to get your voting information. And you will get your information, except they're third-party sites that are collecting all of your data. And this asks you, when you go here, it asks you for your birth date. It asks you for a lot of personal information. So remember, it's votekansas.gov or voteks.gov, or go to the Sedgwick County election page. Okay, and there's one thing that I didn't do that I'm going to talk about briefly, and I don't have a slide for it because I don't really have information for it. The final group of people that are going to be elected to the RNC as delegates, we do not know when that is going to happen yet. It's supposed to be by the end of the month. Our chair, Mike Brown, announced that he wanted to do that by a Zoom meeting. And quite a few people said, no, that's not right. A petition was filed. And so we don't know how the final group of delegates to the RNC is going to be elected yet. But I just wanted to give you that information. Somebody asked me about that earlier. We don't know what the process is going to be, if it's going to be an in-person meeting or if it's going to be a Zoom meeting. And as soon as we get the information, we can send that out. So from the party stuff, how can you help? Volunteer, walk or drive for candidates. Governor Kelly has a PAC that has close to $1 million, and she has pledged to beat Republicans across the state. She's actually targeted several of the Republicans in Wichita that she specifically wants to get rid of. We need people to walk for these candidates, and we are already walking for some of them right now. The weather's nice. If you'd like to walk this month, we've got 4 candidates that we're walking for right now, so please let me know if you want to do that. We're also going to need people to volunteer, stuff envelopes, make calls, register people to vote, chase ballots. This weekend, we have people that are being registered to vote at a gun show. Patty's in charge of that. Patty Wenninger, put your hand up, Patty. Then we also have Wichita ICT Newmar has an event up in the Newmar district, and we have 2 places there that we're going to be registering people to vote. So if you want to do that, let us know. We're also going to be chasing ballots this year, and this is really important. When someone requests an advanced ballot application or hasn't turned in an advanced ballot, we're going to be calling those people to remind them to turn in their ballot. We also will be watching who has voted and who hasn't and trying to get people out to the polls. So we will be doing that this year. How else can you help? Donate to a candidate. Host a party for a candidate. Recruit precinct people. All of you have to know other Republicans that are really good, and we need strong precinct people, so please recruit people to run for that. Talk with your neighbors, friends, and family. And the most important thing we need to do when we're talking with people is not to blurt out facts. It turns people off. It makes them feel like you're more intelligent than them, or that they feel stupid if you give them a bunch of facts. Start with empathy, and start with things like, I care about this issue, here's why I care, and lead with those types of comments before you give them the facts. A couple of things within the Republican Party that we do. The Dwight D. Eisenhower Excellence in Public Service. This is for women. You can nominate a woman to be part of this particular group. I know we have quite a few ICATs here. If you're an ICAT, can you put up your hand? I'm one of them. Yes, we've got quite a few here. It's a great, very rewarding experience. And then the men also have something called the Leadership Series. If you're interested in going through the Men's Leadership Series, contact Kelly Arnold or John Whitmer. The narrative. If you repeat a lie often enough, people will believe it. Pick the target, freeze it, personalize it, and polarize it. It's not what we don't know that's the problem, it's what we know that ain't so. And I don't know about you, but when I'm watching the news these days, I see all of these repeated over and over again. I mean, it's just, you would think that the news would be telling the truth, but they're really not. And what I'm going to go over are some of the narratives that are out there and what the facts are that go with them. There are 4 groups of people right now. Those who believe the narrative and comply. Those who know it's hogwash and comply anyway. Those who are waking up to the lie and are starting to refuse to comply. And those who knew it was hogwash right from the start and refused to partake in the lie. Here's some of the narrative that's out there. Congrats to the family that gave America 8 straight years of no scandals. That was a Facebook post a friend of mine posted last week. You know which side she's on. And then there's 2 from look at the ones regarding Donald Trump. I am the chosen one, and I did the choosing, the devil, and I am a crook. There were a lot more out there for Donald Trump. I couldn't bring him here. The language was so foul and so offensive. It was ridiculous. These are the cleanest slides I can find about Trump, or the cleanest pictures, which is really a shame. But this is the narrative. The Obamas, oh, they were so great. They were so wonderful. And Trump's a crook. And we hear it over and over. And the people that are uninformed, they believe what they say. So we're going to talk about one of the things right now that's been out there that's kind of a narrative. And we're going to start with the facts. Currently, this is the 3rd tax bill that the Republicans have tried to get passed this year. And with what SB 37 does, so again, this is the 3rd one, the top earners have a slight discount in their taxes. And by the way, does anybody know what a top earner is in Kansas tax? That's somebody that makes over $30,000. And Governor Kelly was upset about lowering the tax rate for people that make over $30,000, over $30,000. And then the lower brackets, anybody below that. And I don't know exactly where that is right now, and maybe Leo has the exact number, because they played around with it. In the last bill, it was 23,000, but it was 30,000. Currently, it's 30,000. The lower tax rate gets a slight decrease from 5.25 to 5.2. The good things that are in SB, one other good things are it exempts Social Security income from the state's individual income tax in 2024, zero food tax starting in July. Homeowners with homes under $100,000 will have property tax eliminated from the state's mill levy. And what that means is if your home's worth $400,000, your first $100,000 gets the discount. Does everybody understand that? So everybody gets a discount. They also lowered the public education mill levy, was cut from 20 mills to 19.5. All of these things in here, Governor Kelly said she was going to do. She ran on this. She was going to exempt Social Security. She was going to have zero food tax. She was going to do something for property tax. She talked about that, but she won't pass this bill. So everybody should have the phone number out, call her. Tell her to pass the bill. Let it go through. Don't do anything. But I'm hearing, and Leo, since you're here, she is vetoing it, isn't she? She hasn't done it yet, though, correct? Correct. Yeah, but she's planning on vetoing it. And yet, this is what she ran on. I don't know how anybody could look at this and say this is not good for the people that need it the most. And yet, that's not what they're saying. This is directly from the Kansas Dems. Now, this is a couple of weeks old, but I want to show you the types of things that they send out to their constituents, to the Democrats. This is one of their letters. And it's Jonathan Jones, he's the deputy director of the Kansas Democratic Party. It says, right before the legislators left session, extremists slipped a bill on the table showing their true alliance, and it isn't pretty. Far-right Kansas lawmakers are working to expand the power of election-denying Attorney General Chris Kobach by giving him the ability to suspend laws and rules for certain businesses. I'm going to stop right there. What law are they talking about? Does anybody have a clue? But for the uninformed voter, this is powerful stuff to them. And look at the words. Remember back when I said you polarize something? They've polarized Chris Kobach over and over again. Because what are they saying? He's an extremist. The Kansas Republican Party, they're extremists. And it goes on to a little bit more about it. Look at the bottom. Kansas extremists are doing everything they can to appease their special interest donors. Who are those? Who are the special interest donors? Do we know who they are? And they have the supermajorities to make it happen, which is why it's vital that the Kansas Democrats' grassroots coalition continues to show up. Kansas GOP donors have deep pockets, and it impacts every decision they make. I don't know about you, but Governor Kelly having $1 million in her PAC, that sounds like a deep pocket to me. Here's some more stuff that they have out there. Far-left legislators are constantly putting special interest over the needs of Kansans, and that's why we see bills every session give tax breaks to the wealthy. I just went over what's in the tax bill. Did that give a tax break to the wealthy? It's the best bill for senior citizens and those at the lowest income. Zero food tax is a huge thing on both of those groups. It gives power to other extremists to suspend laws. What does that mean? And yet, this is the message that's out here. This is the narrative that we're up against. And then they've got a little bit, and it's suspend laws, regulations, rules for certain entities. We have to limit the rights and freedoms of regular people. I don't know about you, but somebody that's buying groceries is a regular person. I consider senior citizens regular people. There's another thing in here that somebody told me. Governor Kelly likes to quote ITEP. And I thought, what the heck is ITEP? I don't know what it is. So there's a quote down here. It's it's reported by the Kansas Reflector on January 23rd, the Institute on Taxation Economic Policy. They were talking about the first tax bill. Found that the Republicans' flat tax plan would be especially lucrative for guess who? The state's wealthiest individual, billionaire Charles Koch. And then they make up this number that he would get $875,000 per year back, according to their ITEP research. Okay, so how many people here think that Charles Koch has his income posted somewhere where ITEP could even get it or have a clue of what it really is? And saying that they use this always that it's the rich that are getting the tax breaks. But the people that were benefiting the most were not the rich. And you know what? The rich are always going to have a bunch of attorneys, hundreds of attorneys that can do their taxes. It doesn't matter what the tax rate is. They typically pay 19%. That's what it is, and it has been for years. So I looked into this ITEP. I'm going to show you one of the slides and who they are. And again, Governor Kelly quotes them like they're the Bible. And if you go look, you're going to see ITEP nationally and within Kansas repeated over and over again, this not-for-profit research, that's bipartisan research group. They have this thing that shows total taxes, share of family income, and it shows that those at the lowest, taxes affect them more. Well, it does make sense. I mean, if you're at the lower end, you don't have as much income, taxes do affect you more, but there's nothing you can do about it. What they don't tell you is that everybody pays the same tax on lower income. It's when you get over it that you get the benefits of having a higher income. So what should that do? That should be a motivator for people to go out and find a better job, right? I couldn't figure out how they got the calculation for this. So I looked more into them. They have a document, it's 203 pages long, I think. And what I found is most of ITEP's research is based on ITEP's proprietary, thank you, microsimulation tax model. Okay, proprietary, what does that mean? You can't get it or see it, it's secretive. If it's proprietary, nobody can look at it. And a microsimulation tax model, which estimates, notice this, estimates the amount of federal, state, local taxes paid by residents of every state at different income levels under current law and alternative tax proposals. One of the first things I learned in engineering school was that all models are wrong, but some are useful. And everything that ITEP does is based not on actual data, it's based on a simulation model that they created. They put they decided what goes in there. When I looked up what they thought income was, it said earned income and unearned income. Well, what does that mean? And you can't figure out, and they also include in their model social data and social factors. How does that come up with anything that's real that we should be believing? They said income measurement is an important part of tax incident analysis because income is the benchmark against which effective tax rates are calculated. Federal and state tax codes definitions of adjusted gross income offer relatively straightforward, ready-made definitions and are sometimes used in other organizations' incident analysis. That's true. Why don't we just use the actual data? Oh, but they say it's flawed. And because of that, they take a more inclusive and consistent approach to measuring cash income that includes both income that is subject to tax and income that is exempt. So what are they using? We don't know. It's proprietary. We can't look at it. We don't know what's in the simulation model, but this is the gospel that the Democrats are using. I'm going to give you an example that on this tax cut thing, and we gave a presentation to the League of Women Voters, and we had some really good questions about it. But you and your neighbor have the same job. You both make, and I'm going to use a high income just to get the numbers up there, but you have a base salary of $150. You have same job, same place of employment. Your neighbor is perfectly happy living on $150,000 a year, and that's a good income. He doesn't work any overtime, but your company offers tons of overtime. And you work all the overtime that you can. And at the end of the year, because of it, you make $264,000. When there was a tax cut, he's only going to get $750 back. You're going to get more than that, like $1,300 back. And ITEP says that's not fair. But here's the thing, guys. And this was using a 0.5% example when we first had the first bill that went through. The flat tax was a 0.5% reduction for everybody. 0.5% is all you're getting back. If you make $1 million, the amount you paid in is more, but you're getting the same discount as everybody else. But they make it seem that because you're 0.5%, they're saying it's like that money wasn't yours, it's your money. Does everybody understand how they twist that? So, and I have the little calculation up there, but we're going to skip it. My favorite narrative of all, one of my favorites. The wealthy don't pay their fair share. 61% of Americans believe wealthier corporations don't pay their fair share. Well, let's take a look at the actual data. The state income tax. There were 1,280 returns. You see, 1,280,000 returns roughly. 48,000 or 49,000 people paid 40% of all the income tax that the state collected. 49,000 of the 1,280,000, that's like a little over 3% of the people paid 40% of the tax. So are the wealthy paying their fair share? Let's look at this according to the federal tax. Same thing. The top 1% of tax earners paid 25.9% of all the taxes collected. The top 5 to 1%, you add in another 18%, it's 44% of all taxes collected at the federal income level were paid by the wealthiest Americans. Are the wealthy paying their fair share? Here's another one that most people don't know, and this one's kind of interesting. Oh, by the way, what does it take in Kansas to be a 1%er? Does anybody know what that is? How much money do you have to make to be a 1%er? When you think of a 1%er, what do you think of? You automatically think of million, someone who makes millions and billions, right? Last year it was lower. So according to this chart, it was about $475,000 in Kansas makes you a 1%er. That is a lot of money. But that's not a million or billionaire, but that's what people think. This year, the number's 501,000. If you make 501,000, you're a 1%er in Kansas. And think of the families that might have that money. You got 2 professional people working, that's easy to do. You own a small business, maybe you could have that. Again, it's a lot of money, but that's not what people think of when they think of a 1%er, right? Here's another thing a lot of people don't know about, your Social Security taxes. Everybody that works, except with the exception of some of the people in some of the government jobs, so this is for the general population, Social Security tax is 6.2%, the Medicare tax is 1.45%, and the total employee automatic tax is 7.65%. Everybody pays that, and currently everybody pays that up to making $168,000. So if you make over $168,000, you no longer have to pay it, but then Social Security benefits stop. You would never get any more money anyway. The thing that a lot of people don't realize is the employer must match the same amount. So all of us that are working, 15.3% of your income every year goes to the government. So let me show you something. Currently, right now, I think the highest amount of money you can get from Social Security benefits is about $3,000 a month. I think it just went up. It's slightly over $3,000 a month. Okay, I used 100,000 as an example because it was an even number. If you had taken that 15.3% on $100,000 and put it into your own account, at the end of 35 years, you'd have close to $2 million. Think about how many families have an income of $100,000. You got a husband and wife working? They're easily getting this. At $2 million, we wouldn't need Medicare. We wouldn't need Social Security. You could live off that income. And in 35 years, we're talking about somebody that could be 60 years old, 60 to 65. They're pushing the age up to 68, 69, 70. You would have way more money, but the government takes it instead. I'm going to show you if you're a top wage earner. If somebody who currently makes $168,000 put the money, it's $25,796 a year, gets put away we give it to the federal government, they would have $3.2 million upon retirement. Again, would we need Medicare? Would we need Social Security? We wouldn't need it. This is the money the government took from you that you should have. Another lie that I want to go over, another narrative I want to go over, is that the tax cuts reduce income. This has been shown over and over again, but this was from Bush's tax package. When President Bush cut taxes in 2003, look what happened to the income. There was a 44% increase in income over the next 4 years. That's consistent. Every time there's tax cuts, the income goes up. The other narrative, Republicans are the party of the rich. Well, guess what's happened? Since the 1990s, that's no longer true. The Democrats have started to become the ones who are at the top. They're the ones that are the wealthiest. In 2016, Chuck Schumer remarked about how they were going to go after, specifically, the higher-end wage earners and pick up moderate Republicans in suburbs in Philadelphia, and then repeat that in Ohio and Illinois and Wisconsin. Recent data trends show this has actually happened. In a CNBC survey, America's millionaires said they are more likely to support Biden over Trump in the upcoming presidential election by double-digit margins. And that's those are people that are millionaires. And why this shift? Well, look at our universities for one thing. Some of the highest paid people are professors. A lot of them are one-percenters. Liberal and progressive sounds forward-thinking and open-minded, and who doesn't want to be a part of that? And conservative sounds backwards, old-fashioned, and narrow-minded. So because of the narrative, liberal, progressive, people go for that. Okay, this next slides I'm going to go over super fast, and I don't want to scare you, but taxes really bother me. We're overtaxed. There was a study that once said that we take our salary, and it takes us 9 months to pay off all the taxes we pay. And I believe it, so let me show you why I believe it. This is Kansas's tax rates and the citation. There are 26 different categories of taxes the state of Kansas collects. And you can see what some of these are up here. I don't know what the marijuana tax is that's up here, and maybe Leo can explain it if he knew it. But there's all of these different taxes, a bingo tax, cigarette tax, we knew those. But here's what else. There's the second page of taxes. Here's the third page of taxes. That's the state taxes. Let's go to the federal government. The Internal Revenue Service tax list. 75 years ago, the IRS tax list was 2 pages long. Today, it's 189 pages. 97 taxes on nearly 2,000 publication forms and instruction sheets you can download off the IRS. Don't hold the 97 as an accurate number because I got different numbers. I just picked this one because it was kind of in the middle. But again, are you ready to get depressed? Here are the 97 taxes in the U.S. tax code. You get taxes for all of these different things. Look at that: driver's license, employer social security, environmental taxes, estate taxes, tax. Here's the next list of them: liquor taxes, library taxes, IRS penalty taxes, luxury taxes, marriage license taxes, Medicare taxes. Here's the other rest of them. So the one, I love this one. Has anybody looked at their telephone bill? The amount of tax on your telephone bill is insane. Telephone, federal excise tax, federal universal service fee tax, the minimum line of usage surcharge, on and on. I don't think we need to be paying more taxes. I don't know about you, but that's my thing. I don't think we do. A couple other narratives. They say things that just sound so good. The Affordable Health Care Act. And it was anything but affordable. Joe Biden, Build Back Better. No one making under $400,000 will pay a penalty more. But it repeals the Trump tax cuts, which gave most families about $2,500 more money. And the Build Back Better offers free childcare, free housing, strengthens the middle class through historic investment in equity, safety, and fairness. What does that mean? What does equity mean? What does fairness mean? How do you build that into something? What is that? The Inflation Reduction Act of 2022. Again, a Democratic thing, sounds great. We're going to reduce inflation. But it didn't do anything. The biggest thing that it did was it gave money to the green energy companies, and that it was going to reduce carbon emissions by 40% by 2030. It didn't do anything at all for inflation. The economic stimulus of 2008, it gave large amounts of that money, also went to green energy. So what we're going to talk about next is the narrative on green energy. Global man-made greenhouse gases, emissions by gas. Look at this chart. 76% of the global greenhouse gas emissions are carbon dioxide. That's kind of scary, isn't it? That's scary to most people because they look at it, they go, oh my gosh. Methane, what does methane come from? Animals, those cows that people like to eat. Look at that, they're doing 18%. But what does this chart really mean? Well, let me show you what it means against total atmosphere. The total atmosphere, the chart on the top, do you see there's a little red line? That's 76% of carbon dioxide amounts to 0.03% of the total atmosphere. It's nothing. If I couldn't have picked a better gas to say that it was going to make the world collapse than carbon dioxide. Maybe it's doing something. I don't know. It could be. But based upon this, I'm not sure. I like this other quote at the top. The Earth was 2.45 degrees Fahrenheit warmer in 2023 than in the late 19th century, 1850 to 1900. What kind of things were they using to measure temperature in the 1890s and the pre-industrial average? How did they come up with this statement? I mean, think about it. What was the accuracy of what they were doing in the 1850s? And yet they say this is the narrative. Carbon dioxide occurs naturally in small amounts in the earth, and it has for a long time. What is the one thing that loves carbon dioxide? Plants. We, as Republicans, need to take up a major cause that we're going to plant more plants because more plants are going to combat CO2. We should be stopping rainforests from being destroyed because that really is something that uses the carbon dioxide. But the other thing that studies have shown is that then when there's more carbon dioxide, does anybody know what happens to the plants? They get bigger. They're bigger, stronger plants when they have more carbon dioxide. We have a perfect system, really. The earth takes care of itself. The animals create the methane. We create some of the CO2. The plants use it up. It's a perfect thing. So we're going to dig into the data for climate change. Indicators and model. Oh, what did I say about models? All models are wrong, but some are useful. Every single thing that is shown about climate change is because of a model. If they don't use actual data, they have actual data. The global climate models are computer programs that consist of several 100,000 lines of code. Somebody made all these interpretations on what is supposed to happen and take actual data. Instead of using the actual data, they put it into a model that's going to come up with the answer they want. That's what I think. I spent a couple of years as a simulation expert when I worked for General Motors. And I can tell you that I made mistakes in the model that I was working on that had some drastic effects that if they weren't found, we would have been making really bad decisions. The model is only as good as I am good, or the person that puts the data in there. The other thing that they talk about, this is what I think green energy is about. Green energy is green not because of plants, but because of money it generates for the green companies and the investors. I honestly believe that's what green means. The global green energy market was valued at $1 trillion in 2022 and is projected to reach $2.4 trillion by 2032, growing at a rate of 8.9%. Does anybody know how fast of a growth that is? And who is funding this? Most of it's coming from the government. It's government mandates that are making us do this. Clean energy investment increased nearly 50%, reaching $1.8 trillion in 2023 and growing at about 10% investments over it. And the other thing that we all have to remember, there is no such thing as renewable energy. It's impossible. It just doesn't happen. Renewable energy has to come from a natural resource that replenishes on a human timescale, and these resources include suns, tides, winds. This is what they say. But a solar panel is made from what? It's made from minerals that are not renewable. Our wind turbines are made from composites that are not recyclable and use many materials that are not renewable. Batteries use lithium, which is not renewable. There is no such thing as renewable energy, and anybody who's been through any kind of engineering or physics class will tell you that that's just not true, or they should. I'm not sure about recent graduates. A couple other things, I'm almost done here. Yeah, that's another topic. This is the trend of what's happened with the global climate change. It really started back in the 1990s, and you could see what's happened. But country after country after country has bought into this, and millionaires have invested lots of money into this. This is big, big money, and it's 3 decades worth. Do you remember what Al Gore had said, that he was going to be the first billionaire off of green energy? Think about that. So what is green energy really about? Just a couple more slides. This disinformation thing. Over and over recently, we see the word of disinformation. Elections and disinformation are colliding like never. Disinformation poses an unprecedented threat in 2024. Disinformation is on the rise. How does it work? Why a perfect storm of misinformation may loom in 2024. Disinformation tops Global Risks 2024 in an environmental conference. And 5 things we need to know about disinformation this election. This is another narrative that's out there, is when somebody presents the other side, oh, that's disinformation, and they just discard what you're saying. And it's a tactic that is working, unfortunately, for many. There's something that comes out of it that's good, and I'll close with that. Here's part of what I believe is disinformation, but they don't. Look at the Black Lives Matter riots versus the Capitol riots. Way more damage, billions of dollars in damage. The Capitol riots were nothing like that. But at the bottom, what do they say? Can you read that? The Black Lives Matter was encouraged by congressmen. And the 9/11 style commission put those types of charges against the people that were in the Capitol riot. The Black Lives Matter people were peaceful protesters. Mostly peaceful, as the fire. I think this is one of the pictures that was on the news. I think Fox News ran this picture where they have this picture in the background they're talking about, and the reporter is saying mostly peaceful protesters with the flames going. And that the people at the Capitol on January 6th were domestic terrorists. And I think everybody agrees that nobody should have gone into the Capitol on January 6th. But the amount of damage that was done to the Capitol was minimal compared to everything else. But that's the narrative. I love this other one. What they say, if Republicans win the midterms, there will be rioting, looting, and racism. What they really mean, if we cannot have the absolute power, we will engage in insurrection to scare you into submission. So how can we deal with the narratives and the storm of disinformation? How do we get to the truth? Go to the source. This is what I try to do, is I actually read legislation. I try to go to the actual document. When somebody says the data shows, I try to go see what data did they use. And I will tell you, on the green energy stuff, the climate change, I have been looking for that for over 10 years. I have yet to be able to find the data that they use, because it's all made up. It's all through this simulation model. And what do we know about models? All models are wrong. Talk to your officials directly, ask for the memo, the legislation. Check your sources, verify. Know the code words: model, fair share, extremist, equality, equal, equity, and DEI. Remember, all models are wrong. And see it with your own eyes. And that's the one thing that we're finding out right now, is that a lot of Democrats and independents are seeing it with their own eyes. They're hearing what Obama's saying. They're hearing what the Democrats are telling them, but they're going to the grocery store every day. They're filling up their gas tanks, and they know, because they see it with their own eyes, that it just isn't true. That's it. Thank you very much. I know it was a lot.
There was a couple of openings you said, if you lived in these areas, we're looking for somebody.
Yes.
Do you know what part of town that was in?
So, District 95. Leo, do you know where Silas Miller's district is and Tom Sawyer?
I believe he's getting down like 8 or so.
No, it's not Boca. It's Lincoln Heights, like,
Okay.
I know he's south side.
I thought that'd be good information to know, like, what part of town that would be. We're looking for somebody.
Yeah, and we really are looking for somebody. We've looked at the numbers. We believe those are seats we can win. We need somebody to run. And we can get you the help if you decide to run for those. Okay.
So, time for questions. If you're a Pachyderm member, we try to ask those questions first. So if you have a question, raise your hand. Did Deb tell you everything? She did a good job, didn't she? No question.
All right, John's got a question.
I'm a student. I just transferred to Columbia University. I really appreciate your views on the climate change. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. And again, I'm presenting you the information that I've found and looked into. You don't believe me? Go check it out for yourself. That's what I think of everything. Check it out for yourself. But again, try to find actual data. So much of the things that we're seeing these days are these simulation models, and they make it sound so great. Again, it's just a model, and it's only as good as the data that the person put in. With that, I thank you very much. Our next Republican Party, oh, we have questions in the back.
I just want to make a quick comment, because you did a really good job up there, and you did a lot of things. When you talk about the tax legislation, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Bill, but I think it's number 4 we're on right now this year. She vetoed the first one, the second
Vetoed the second
one by the Senate, she vetoed the third one.
Oh, okay. I think you're right about that.
We sent back the fourth one. I personally talked with Adam Smith, who's the chair of taxation. I said, when we do this fourth one, because she was out in the media, she being Laura Kelly was in the media, stouting how the Republican plan will bankrupt the state. Her plan is sustainable. And yet the difference between the two was approximately, I want to say, $35 million, give or take just a little bit. So I talked to Adam and I said, tell you what, keep the plan as it is, tweak the two numbers of percentages of the taxation. You'll have 12 more decimal points, but tweak it to where it matches what her plan is, dollar-wise, and he got it almost identical, real close, within $3 million per year. And that absolutely infuriated her, because it took away her argument there, and she immediately vowed to veto the thing. So I'm at a loss on what more we can do. We actually matched her numbers to where she said in her own words it's sustainable, but it's not her bill, and she's just throwing everybody under the bus.
It's because it's a Republican bill. She cannot give Republicans anything. Go ahead.
We got a question with a questioner?
Question was, how far are we from overriding the veto? I can go by the past one, the one we just did. In the House, it was 111, and I think there were 4 or 5 out. 111 voted to override it, and there was 8, I think, or 8 to 10 Democrats who were truly scared to override it, because Laura swore to them she would primary them in their Johnson County district. Didn't really hurt us. When we went to the Senate, it was one short of a veto override, and we had John Dole, Rob Olson, and Pyle who voted against it. So those could have overturned it, but then in the Senate, they asked for a reconsideration of it. So they brought it up again. We got John Dole to turn to our side to override, then Alicia Straub from Great Bend area switched hers to killing. That's your Republicans.
All right, one last question. We got Dave, and then we'll go from there.
I'm sorry, this is more of a statement because I was in the principal's office Monday to awaken us because the 8th grade class in Andover Central Middle School was being shown before the flood, which is Leo DiCaprio's movie on climate change. So in the 8th grade, they're indoctrinated. And so I'm on a mission related to Andover. It's got to be parents and grandparents. I'm challenging the grandparents. My friend who gave me this is a parent, and they're concerned what will happen to their kid if they stand up and do something. So I'm sorry, that's not a real question.
That's okay.
Statement that happened this week, and I'm in the principal's office. So they're there.
And one thing about this, when I use the model stuff, if you guys, this is another thing that I was going to bring it up, but I didn't. But if you go online now, they have math problems, solve these math problems. You get answer 1 and 16, and they both say they're right. Do you know that they have changed the way we do math? The way I learned math was before 1990. They've changed the way the kids are doing math. And do you know why? No, it's not. Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's that too. No, it's because of the way they programmed the calculators. That's the reason that math has changed, some of these calculations. It's because of the way that they programmed calculators. When I was taught that, there was like some things in implied parentheses, those are no longer implied because the calculator doesn't know how to do that. That's because that's the way that it was programmed. Our children are being taught with things that have already been done for them. They don't know how to do basic math or basic calculations. That's what I learned, and that's why it's easy for them to believe these models and what they say. So remember, all models are wrong. Thank you.
Thank you very much. See you guys next week for visual presence.